So the associative array, you have what's called a key value pair. Okay, you've probably seen this before. And same thing as you look in the browser, you have something like this. You might see something like that. Name is equal to A, and then age is equal to 12, like that, right? So key value pair, right? It's always come in this format. So every time you see an associative array, is always like that, because the element here, or the item, is always associated with some type of key. Okay, so you think of it as a key, associative array. Other terms that had a similar feature would be like a map, okay, or a hash table. Okay, it's always referred to the key JSON data, right? JSON is also the same thing. Actually, this is JSON notation. The same thing. You see this many times, and it is also what we call an object. Okay, so right now, this is an object, and you might have seen this in some examples I've done before. But it's an object, but it's also an associative array. So you can declare using the curly braces, not the square brackets. Okay, the square brackets doesn't work. Okay, the square bracket doesn't allow you to put the key value in there. So it has to be curly, and then the key followed by the colon, and then the value for that key. You cannot leave it blank. You have to have a key and value pair. Okay, and then you put a comma, and you keep going until you reach the end of that list. So here again, for example, I put object here for now, because with the associative array, you can have a lot of different categories or different items in there of different types. So I can say the first is fruit, and notice I put a double quote around it, right? Because it's a string. It could be a string. It could be a variable. If you want to use it as a variable, that's fine. Okay, so you put it as a string in this case. Fruit type is apple, right? And the animal is cat. Genre, for example, is comedy. And then you have a number, right? It looks just like the array index, and then has a value of 5,000. And you have another, it's like a string here with a number in front, third, and then just a text for third. So I have like 5 elements or 5 items in this object, or this associative array. So when you access the associative array, you can do it in 2 ways. You can use the dot notation, okay, or you can use the square brackets like the regular array. So either one is fine, but there are some rules that you cannot use for numbers. So for example, here the fruit. As you can see, fruit is I put here as a string, right? But when I access it, it's with the dot notation. I'm not putting like quotes here. I mean you can't put like quote like that, right? It has to be just the key name, or the name of your key, and not the name of the value itself, but the key only. So object dot something. So these are really, if you think about these are properties of this object. Okay, the properties that belong to this object here. So I would say object dot fruit will give me the value of that, which is apple. Here object, I put the animal inside the square brackets. I'll get cat out of that. I could also say obj dot animal. I'll get that too, right? Same thing with the genre here. Notice though the number here. Okay, if it's a number, doesn't matter if it's an integer number or a string like this. If the first character here is a number, then you have to put inside the brackets. Okay, you cannot put the dot like this, dot 100 or dot third like this. Okay, it does not work. It will give you an error. Okay, so if it's like that, you have to use the square brackets. Here, notice I don't have to put the quotes. I could do this if I want, which is fine. Okay, it's because what it does is, well, it will actually convert it to a string anyway, even though these are numbers. Okay, so because it's like a pure number, then that's completely fine. Except for this one here. This is a third, a 3, and then 2 characters. So this key is completely a string. You cannot leave it like this either now, because RD is it's not a number, so it's a string. So you have to put double quotes or single quotes around it. and that will give you the value. So that's the only rules, that you cannot put the dot in front if it's the first character is a number. It doesn't matter what follows it. Okay, if it's anything else, if it's a character, then yeah, you can put the dot. And as far as like which is better, that's completely up to you. However you choose to do it or use it. Okay. So I just will tell you a little bit about the associative array. Maybe we'll do this some more in the other class, but I think as far as for this class, we'll revisit this again in a couple chapters ahead when we deal with object. So when we go to the chapter that talks about object, you'll see that this will come back again. Okay, this is just for declaring objects, because and then when we talk about functions in the, I think chapter 4 or chapter 5, remember which one, then you will also get to write functions that will generate objects of your own type too. So we'll deal with that later.